Assalamu alaikum. Good morning or good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you here in this webinar titled Hybrid PMO. My name is Mohammed Al-Ruwaili. I am a training and development volunteer with PMI KSA chapter, and I will be your host today. First, I would like to, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Fahim Jafar, who is the founder of ProBack Consultants, an Australian project management consulting and training firm. He has over 27 years of extensive international project and PMO management experience under his belt gained while working at multinational organizations like NCR Corporation, IBM, HP, Optus, PM Partners, and MasterCard. Mr. Jafar is going to educate us today about hybrid PMO. This program is an education and awareness program for PMI KSA and PMI members. Our agenda today will consist of mainly the presentation that will be presented by Mr. Jafar, and then we will conclude with a Q&A session. Mr. Jafar will be going into a detailed agenda of the presentation. Thank you very much. Mr. Jafar, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been an honor to be part of this session. Like Mohammed just explained, what I intend to do today is give you a bit of an idea of what the hybrid PMO is and what's the concept of it. So the way how we will run this session is, I'm going to spend about 35 minutes, probably 40 minutes trying to, we'll go through the presentation, we'll give you a bit of a feel for it. And then at the end of the presentation, I've got a bit of an offer for you, and then we will open it up for questions and answers. I'd like to keep presentation a bit more interactive as well. So as we go through the session, I'll be asking you to participate and contribute to the session with some question and answers. So with Mohammed here, between Mohammed and I, we'll try to respond to that. So it's kind of a poll. So you would be asked to provide your opinion in the chat. So if you could do that, that would be really good. It will help us to respond to your queries and provide you information that best suits your interest as well. So thank you once again. And without further ado, let's start. So the topic today is hybrid PMO or hybrid project management office. My name is Fahim Jafar, and Mohammed has done the introduction, so I appreciate that. I'm a founder of a company called ProBack Consultant, which is project practice. It's an Austrian project management training and consulting company. We've been operating for about 7 years in Australia, and we run extensive courses in project management across the globe. I myself is a PMI authorized trainer. I'm a PMP and RMP certified. I am also pursuing my PhD in project management, and I teach project management at the University of Sydney, Australia, and Torrens University, Australia. My details are in the pack, and I'll send that pack at the end of the presentation. So please, by all means, if you've got any questions, feel free to send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll continue from there. Just a bit of a background on the company. Again, that will be available in the pack. By all means, have a look at our website and also YouTube. There are a lot of videos on preparing for the PMP exam as well. We are starting DSSM, which is Discipline Agile, so some certification as well. So please do get in touch with us. Okay, let's start. Research tells us that an average life of a PMO is about 2 to 4 years. Now that's a very interesting research, and this has been done by recently about 4, 5, 6 years back. I would like to have a feel for it. If you think the audience thinks that you have a feel for it, why do you think that it takes the average life of PMO is 2 to 4 years? So try to think about it. Why do you think a PMO, which is a key entity, an integral part of the organizational strategy, stays only for 2 to 4 years? Let's see, what do you guys think? If you could provide us your feedback in the chat. I'll give you 30 seconds. Yeah, yeah, we can see that changing scenarios. Companies don't see the real value of PMO. That's a very good one. Very good one. Change is evolving. Absolutely good stuff. Rapid changes in the industry. Yes, that's true as well. Unstructured. Yeah, that's that's one way of looking at it. Good. Okay. Wonderful. Keep it coming, guys. Technology, yeah, technology changes. Absolutely right. The way the technology is evolving, PMO is evolving as well. So absolutely wonderful. Rapid changes in the industry. That's good. Full achievement. Too much promise, too little delivery. That's pretty good. That's absolutely done. Okay. PMO overseas projects. That's good. No, yeah, right. Thank you very much. You're absolutely spot on. I think most of you just nailed it. The challenge is that, there are a lot of expectations from the PMOs, and traditionally a PMO is considered to be a governance policeman, right? And what happens is over a period of time, nobody likes to be told what to do. So we expect PMOs to be doing what we want. Organization expect PMOs to be delivering, but at times they don't know what they want PMOs to deliver, right? So the important thing for us for a PMO is to first look at it. How effective is the PMO? If you are a part of the PMO team, look at it. Are you adding value that your organization appreciates? Are you looking into, is your PMO doing something that supports your executive organizational decision making, right? Do your executive rely on your PMO support for deciding on the projects or portfolios of the work that they want to undertake? Do you have the respect? The PMO has the respect of the leadership, right? As you know, the support of the executive council or executive leadership is crucial for PMO survival. So that's one way of looking at your effectiveness of your existing PMO. Then, some of the attendees responded, they're not changing technologies. So is your PMO flexible, right? How quickly can your PMO respond to the market conditions? More importantly, how well your PMO reacts to the change. We went through a recent COVID-19 situation across the globe. A lot of organizations struggle. Did the PMO respond to it? Did the PMO provide the support that the organizations were looking for? So is your PMO flexible enough to support different ways of working, or we can say, wow, ways of working like agile, predictive, hybrid? So these are also considerations. What about measuring success for your PMO, right? How do you know that your PMO is making an impact for the organization, right? The PMO sphere of influence is not only restricted to the project delivery or the program delivery, it also impacts people. We deal with people all the time, right? So we need the data to provide effective support, and the data comes from the people. How comfortable your stakeholders are with you. Now, all these things are important for a PMO, and the research tells us that PMOs are really struggling in all these areas. And the reason for that their PMOs are struggling to respond to the rapid changes. And that's one of the key reasons for PMO failure. For a PMO to be successful in today's world, VUCA world must be ready to respond to the VUCA situation. And I'll explain you what VUCA is. The organizations are changing. PMO needs to be ready to respond to the growing organizational agility, right? We need to let go of traditional waterfall approach, very restrictive traditional waterfall approach, and take more agile or lean-based function. But is this the right way to do it? Should we let go of our traditional governance structure? But that's our traditional role, and just focus on how the agile delivery is, right? These are some of the factors that we need to take into consideration when we are designing a PMO now. Now, what the VUCA stands for, and it's VUCA. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? It describes a situation of constant, unpredictable change that is now pretty norm, right? And this situation demands that you avoid traditional, outdated approaches and be flexible to respond to the market conditions, right? the balance between the governance and the change, responding to the change, is very critical for a project management office. Now, whether you are a project PMO at a program level, at a project level, or a portfolio level, successful PMOs are the ones that have accepted this disruption as the norm, whether we like it or not. World is changing, and some of the attendees mentioned industry is changing, technology is changing. Who could have thought that we would be relying on a smartphone for all our work and day to work? It was supposed to be a phone. This phone has evolved into an integral part of our life. It's no more a phone, or it's no more a luxury. It has become a necessity, right? Everything. So the technology is changing. It is important that PMOs should be willing to evolve from our traditional policeman approach to a much more agile and lease-based function. Now, in saying that, I also want to clarify, in my humble opinion, that there's a big difference between agile and lean. Now, a lot of people confuse agile approach with the lean, but that's not exactly the same. Lean is focused on elimination of waste, right? For example, handover process from team to team, reduction of approval in your processing documents, or procurement, hiring of the people, right? Whereas agile is iterative and incremental approach to deliver something of value to customers, right? Yes, we need to have a combination of both agile and lean approach, but we need to also appreciate that these two are two different spectrums of an response to the disruption around us, right? So if I mess it up now, more agile and pragmatic processes are required for a PMO, right? That does not mean that we let go of our traditional governance structure or traditional governance approach. That is the requirement, but we need to be aware of what the world is, where the world is moving, and how we can respond to it. So I want to set this scene so that to give you a bit of feel for it, how the PMOs can respond. And I'm going to give you a bit of a feel for the challenges. By all means, please put your questions in the chat if you think there's something you want to, and we'll try to respond to that as well. Now, what are some of the modern PMO challenges, right? Lack of right governance in the context of agility, right? We all now know we all want everything quickly. Organizations are thriving on agility. If we focus on traditional governance approach, which is very sequential, predictive, very step by step, we're going to struggle. The PMOs will struggle, and that's what is happening. PMOs that have not adapted to the changing world, they are struggling, and that's why the research is saying the average life of PMO is between 2 to 4 years, right? We also need to understand that integration of formal effective project governance is key to us now, right? Then PMOs need to be responsive and adaptive to support the organization. That basically supports the first point, which is lack of right governance in the context of agility. Lack of benefits realization. Now, for the benefit of the audience, so traditionally PMOs are focused on triple constraint: on time, on schedule, on budget delivery. Over the period of last 27, 28 years of my professional life, I have seen projects delivering on time, on budget, on schedule, but delivering no value to the organization. And that's a challenge, right? Why would an organization spend money, millions of dollars on a project that is not going to give them any benefit? The concept of benefit realization, their realization of having a benefit and understanding what the benefit the project is delivering is absolutely critical in today's world, right? With the disruption around us, with the market trend moving, and organization becoming more smarter and leaner and focused on the project delivery, the requirement from the PMO is to ensure that projects deliver the benefit that organization can basically delivers a value that organization can benefit from. That's what the benefit realization. So that's really key. Um, in a situation like that, for a PMO that is looking at failure, sorry, the main thing that I want to highlight is that for PMOs, failure to recognize that the traditional approach is necessary, but probably insufficient to deal with rapid changes and predictability is the major cause that we are major problem that we are facing. Right? It is important that we should recognize this fact. All right. We also need to recognize that in our PMO world, in our PMO sphere, governance, traditional aspect of the governance will be there, will always be there one way or the other. We need some governance, we need some reporting, we need some tracking. Um, we can't just let go of everything, otherwise we can't have everything agile way where, the focus is on delivery, quicker value delivery rather than the governance and process, but we cannot have it because, that's not how the organization works. Um, we need to adapt, PMOs need to adapt to the new world where they can bring some balance around between the traditional and agility. Now, because of the challenges that we are facing, so how is it really impacting? Um, the way it is impacting organization is that there are inconsistent project prioritization and selection. Now, if an organization cannot uh, select appropriate projects, they cannot get the value, they cannot benefit from the work, then organization revenue will suffer. If organization is not making revenue, if organization is not making an impact in the market, organization reputation, brand, or market share will suffer, right? Um, Slower time to market. Um, like I said, very fast moving world, a lot of disruption around us. Everybody wants everything quicker. Our customer wants everything quicker. If we stick to the traditional processes, we organizations are delivering projects slower to the market, and it is causing a problem. Any organization, if you look at it, that is not responsive to the market is quickly losing the share. Um, in early 60s up to early 60s, the life cycle of an organization was about 65, until 70s or 80s, about 65, 70 years. By 2000, that has shortened to 15 years. That's what is happening. I don't know how many of you remember why Kodak, such a big organization, failed to make an impact, although they were the first one to introduce digital SLR to the market. They just took to, they just stayed with their traditional camera approach and then benefit from the technology they basically introduced to the world. So that's kind of a environment now we are talking about. Opportunity cost is very high. If we are slow, if organizations are going to keep losing opportunities, they're not going to benefit. Strategic initiatives are missed. Organizations are going to start losing money, and that's exactly what is happening with PMO not being effective. The organization is suffering, and if the organization is suffering, the first area that organization is going to start looking at is, which is not providing benefit to them, is pretty much that's what the industry says. Start from the food chain, top of the food chain, which is in the project delivery, is a PMO, because PMO, as most of you know, is as a management of it, kind of a management of it. It's not delivering any revenue. It's basically helping deliver the revenue rather than bringing revenue as such, right? So that's what happens. Lack of business and IT alignment is a constant source of frustration for both parties. That's what is happening. And I especially brought this point in because when we talk about PMO and project delivery, in this digital world, there's hardly any project that does not involve IT or information technology. There's some component of IT that requires engagement with the business. And if IT and business are not aligned, if they don't see eye to eye, if the technology and the businesses are not focused on the same thing, then this is going to impact organization, right? And this is where PMOs are really struggling. In today's dynamic disruptive world, to set the scene, to give you a feel for it, neither traditional nor modern agile approach can be perfectly applied. for the entire duration of the project. And what I mean by that is, so let's take an example of a project. Let's say if you need to hire resources, you cannot, in a lot of organizations, you still cannot take an agile approach and hire resources. You cannot just hire resources in 2 weeks and get them, keep them for a sprint and release them. It just doesn't happen like that. There's a certain policies, there's an organizational culture, there's an organizational policies, then there's a geographical policies and culture. You may not have the skills. So that's still a very predictive. Similarly, the procurement process in a lot of organizations, in a lot of organizations is very traditional, sequential, step by step. But the world is changing. And frankly, the way the world is changing, there's no definite approach anymore. PMO will have to find a way to evolve and perform under these conditions, right? Governance is a key function and will probably always remain. The balance is required between the traditional inflexibility, let me put it this way, probably inflexibility and predictable, and rigid governance, and responding to the fact that we need to respond to our customers. That's the key. That's the key. That's where the PMOs need to evolve. And the reason for that is PMO as an entity needs to evolve, come out of their own rigid governance shell. And there are a lot of organizations around the world that are doing that. Okay, so this brings me to the key question. What do you think a hybrid PMO means, right? What do you think the key attributes or a characteristic of a hybrid PMO? Let's see what you guys have a view. If you could write in the chat. Okay. Okay. It's approach of traditional agile. It's good. Fit for purpose. Adaptability. Good one. Yeah, absolutely. Mixing the traditional agile way of working. That's pretty good. Yeah. Mix of tradition and modern approach. Flexibility. Good. Yeah, keep it coming, guys. Flexibility change. There's an integrated approach of all project management approaches. Agile masters. Okay. Yeah. Mixture of controlled, supportive, and directive roles. Good stuff. Yeah. That's good. Proactiveness. Good. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Um, I noticed that most of you are looking at flexibility and flexibility of change, and I think that's a really good sign that we as PMO enthusiasts or PMO members, we realize that 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 we need to be flexible, right? And in like there's no definite definition of a PMO, what the PMO really does, and how the PMO needs to be set up. There's no standard for setting up a PMO. Similarly, there's no standard for a definition of a hybrid. But we can say that a hybrid PMO is a kind of type of PMO that basically combines traditional strategic planning activities with lean agile approach to provide project governance rigor without rigidity. And that's something that I want to focus on. Provide governance rigor without rigidity. That means we appreciate that the governance, project governance is required, which will always be there. But we also now understand, we appreciate within a hybrid environment that we need to be flexible. Now, flexibility does not mean we let go of our traditional work, traditional responsibilities of governance, but we need to evolve. We need to find a way how we can provide that in a better way, right? There's no set definition of hybrid PMO. This is just something, a thought process, my thought process, right? It's one way of looking at it. There could be, I'm sure, people, over a period of time, there will be more research done on it and people will come up with much better definition. But in simplest term, hybrid is a combination of traditional and modern approach. So let's look at some of the characteristics or key attributes of a hybrid PM. So I split them up into two categories. When I was doing some work, and this is something that I did based on, I set up a hybrid PMO in an organization that I work at a regional level. And so when I was looking at it, I used my own experience and some industry knowledge, and defined that role into a bit of two categories. So I defined the characteristics, what we want, how that entity should behave, and then activity is task, what we expect that kind of a PMO to deliver. So if I look at the characteristics, we're looking at responsive to change, collaborative governance, and continuous information. I'm going to go a little bit more in detail in this, what it means. But if you look at it, what we have discussed up till now, responsive to change is a PMO function. PMO still needs to respond to a change, right? We still, even in our traditional structure, we respond to a change. We have a set way of doing it. We still do it. Collaborative governance. PMOs thrive on people. We interact with people, right? Projects are delivered by the people for the people. PMO deal with the people all the time. So we need to have a collaborative approach. We always had it. We need to continue doing it. Continuous innovation. Now, this is probably a new area for us now, especially in PMO. And I'm going to go to be a bit of a detail in this has been picked up from lean agile approach. What that means and what continuous innovation mean. How do we get innovation? So, but these are the three key characteristics that I think there are and a hybrid PM should have. And then there are three key activities of the task that the PMO should do, which is strategic alignment, and making sure the projects that are aligned, that we are delivering are aligned with the organizational strategy, basically help organizational leadership with the strategic alignment. Portfolio prioritization, right? Pipeline, what are the projects we are going to do, how we are going to approach it, and a mix of traditional and agile delivery, right? When we talk about traditional, it could be predictive approach, waterfall, what you want, but the traditional approach, right? Whatever our traditional organization. So just to give you a feel for it, key attributes of hybrid PMO, we have got characteristics. Based on these characteristics, we have activities and tasks. And now we will see how we can marry those up. Some are pretty straightforward, and some may require us to be a little bit more innovative and respond to it. Again, guys, if you have any question, by all means, please put the question in the chat. Mohammed, if you could look at it, if anybody is asking question, I'm happy to respond. Okay, strategic alignment. What that means is communicate strategy and vision to the project team. PMO and
yes, Mr. Jafar.
Yeah.
There is one question here. Maybe we can take. It says, can hybrid PMO be applied in industrial projects such as engineering and construction?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Mohammed. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good question. Yes, I'm going to come to that as well. Hybrid PMO can be applied, and I'm going to explain what this hybrid PMO really means. The whole idea of hybrid PMO is that it should be applied across the industries. It's not restricted to any industry. And the reason I say that, when we talk about agile, people tend to think agile is only for IT industry. Yes, it started for software development area, software development industry, but it has evolved. Even agile has evolved from there. If you look at it, even agile is somewhat, our agile methods of Scrum or extreme programming. They're all somewhat predictive. Even safe agile, somewhat predictive. It's a step by step. There's a new concept of discipline agile, where you basically mix and match. And yes, it can be applied to any industry. So I'm going to try to give you a bit of a feel for it, Mujib, how you can do it. And then, yeah, if you still want to ask a question, by all means, go for it. Thank you very much for the question. So coming back, strategic alignment. So we talked about the characteristic. It's PMO's job, and has always been, to be at the top of the project chain to make sure that strategic projects are aligned with the strategy. Now, whether the organization have successfully used that role of the PMO is a different question, but PMOs are at that level where they should be able to influence strategy. So communicate strategy and vision to the project team. If I'm delivering a project, and if I don't know what value that project is adding to the organization, So I'm going to do the project, but that's fine. I'll be much more motivated if I know that the project that I'm working on is going to benefit the organization, tenfold, or it's going to increase the market share. So that's important. Ensure that the team understand the impact of project organization goals and objective, right? Track and monitor benefit realization. That's the key. Strategic alignment requires us PMO to ensure we track benefit alignment. We need to bring synergy between strategic organizational objectives and project deliverables. That is the key when we talk about the strategic alignment. Then we talk about in terms of portfolio prioritization, right? That is strategic project selection and prioritization. Prioritize project pipeline based on your organizational objectives. There are different methods available: Moscow analysis, WestJeff, which came from Safe Agile. No matter what method you use, you still need to prioritize. The PMO needs to take a leadership role in helping organization prioritizing and selecting the projects that will deliver the strategy, right? And it's our role to brief the project team on the motive behind that prioritization. A lot of people ask, why I'm doing this project? Why do I have to do that? So you need to explain them, because that is the reason. That's what your project is delivering to the organization. Communicate the trade-offs between the schedule, budget, or risk. That's something that PMO needs to still do it. And then we need to take a lead role in communicating risk and dependencies across the project, right? So these are some of the factors that we still need to. These has always been there, but we took a very traditional approach, and in a new modern hybrid approach, we need to be more focused on it. The concept is same. The approach has changed, or approach has evolved. Lean project delivery, establish value stream. Now, what that means, and like I said, this has come from a lean. Lean is based on elimination of resources, elimination of waste, right? You remove waste from your processes, you remove waste from any work that you're doing, so you don't waste time. You make the most of the time and resources that you have. It is a continuous flow of project. One example is if you have a value stream, if you have defined value streams, so resources, let's say your resources working on project A, as project A finishes, they go on project B and then C and so on and so forth. This is a value stream. So you have a defined value stream, what your pipeline is, when the resources will move from one project to another seamlessly at the end of the project. You're basically minimizing bench time for the resources. That's one example, right? Embed quality in all aspects of project governance. That's the key, right? Joseph Joran, the quality guru, he said quality must be built in, all right, through planning, design, and continuous improvement. And that's what we need to do as a PMO. We can't just provide templates and processes. Okay, yep, go ahead, go do the job. We need to be part of ongoing project deliveries to make sure that we learn from what's happening, what the project team is suffering, what improvements can be made. Focus on small batch of delivery. Let's look at how we can split the work. Right? It doesn't mean that you just do small project. It means how you can divide big projects in a deliverable chunks so that it's easy. And sometimes it will be possible, sometimes it may not be possible. That's fine. Rationalize project reporting. Instead of doing 20 projects reports every day, every month, just focus on what's the best way to approach it, right? How you can minimize the project reporting. There are a lot of project management tools, PPM tools available today in the market are also doing that. They're trying to rationalize the reporting. So you input the information and they give you a report, and you can cut and you can tailor and tweak the report as you want, but you input the information once, right? Continuous innovation. And that's something that I want to a little bit focus on. Fail fast. This is important. If you're not going to fail, traditionally we as PMOs have always tried to be safe, right? Let's define the template. Let's define the perfect template. Let's define the perfect process. So everyone, no, we don't need to do it. The world is changing. It's fine if we fail. It's fine if the template is not perfect. It's fine if the process is not perfect. We can improve on it. We need to evolve. We need to get out of this mentality. And how we do it, we seek feedback. So people wouldn't. Traditionally, what has been happening, PMOs define the template, and you go to the organization, you look at the date of the version of the template. That template was built somewhere, sometime in early 2000. And nobody looked at the template because that's the process, that's the organization process. Yeah, that's fine, it's working, but that doesn't mean it's it's effectively working or it's efficient process. So look at it, seek feedback, apply learning, improve your way of working, empower team to help them make the decision, empower your, be willing to accept from your peers and your organizational leaders and your project delivery team on what can be improved. So I think that's something that's some of the things that I want to highlight. That's the key for a new modern PMO. What I did also, I thought I'll give you a feel for what a hybrid PMO model should look like. Now, again, this is something that I used at an organization. It doesn't mean that that's the only model. There are multiple ways of doing it, but this is just one way of approaching it. You can call it a hybrid PMO implementation model. Organizational strategy comes at the top. That's our goal. In a hybrid PMO, you need to take into the organizational strategy. You need to understand what the organizational strategy is. And then you need to basically embed that strategy into your portfolio management. Now, what is portfolio management? That's your pipeline planning and strategic alignment, which is what your project pipeline is. It could be respond to a market. Maybe you're looking at developing new product. Maybe you have governance or compliance or regulation thing that you need to do. You may need to look at the benefit realization. It could be any reason, right? But that's something that you need to do. You need to ensure that whatever your projects are, you need to, as a PMO, as a hybrid PMO, you need to develop your project product roadmap. You need to develop a roadmap that aligns with your organizational strategy, and then you prioritize. You work. You can see that on the right is a resource management, which is giving basically inputting into the whole portfolio management, and then on the left is a financial management, because no PMO, no organization can work without resource management and financial management. That function is still there. You still have to do it. So whether it's a agile environment, it's a traditional environment, the portfolio management function will still stay with the PMO, right? In the near future, what happens in the distant future, I don't know, but at the moment, that's our goal, right? So that's something that works. Then that translates into, once you've identified the strategic initiative and prioritize, you can look at it. There's a question asked whether the hybrid approach can be applied for the construction. Construction industry is still very traditional delivery, right? We cannot go agile way. We cannot just build half room and just move in and build the rest of the house. We have to still build, do increment. We have to do predictable step-by-step sequential activity. So what hybrid PMO is doing, the strategic initiatives are prioritized, but it is supporting both traditional delivery and agile lean project delivery. That's the key part. Hybrid does not mean that you mix and match all the deliveries. That means you have a component in your organization which still requires traditional approach, and then there's a component, or there's a set of projects that can be delivered in an agile way. Software development is an example. A lot of products, banks are a very good example. They look into delivering quick products, right? But when they build the new offices, when they're doing a lot of civil works, that is still very traditional delivery, right? So that's one way of looking at it. In saying that, the PMO function, what is PMO going to do? In a hybrid PMO, we are still providing risk management, issue management, schedule management, dependency management as a function. That is still a hybrid function, and that spans across traditional and agile delivery. Now, to agile approach, they will still do their Kanbans, they will still do their burn up charts, they will still do burn down charts, and there's no harm in PMO being involved in it, right? But PMO still needs to deliver, stick to their function of providing execs the overview and oversight of all the projects, right? The way this the chart is structured, it shows, the darker color is what the hybrid approach is, where it's applied across the traditional and agile projects, and lighter colors, as you can see, is agile delivery, and light green is traditional approach. The idea I'm trying to, and I have successfully implemented in an organization, I was like I was saying, and it worked very well. It didn't take me 2 months; it took me some time, but it was applicable, and it made a lot of uh, impact on the organizational goal, right? So that's one way, and I'm happy to share this information if you guys want to use it. I do want to put a disclaimer there, and this is very important. Um, Hybrid approach is not the solution to each and every project, right? In the same way, agile and waterfall approach is not suitable for every organization. This is very important. Don't try to take an hybrid approach on a project or on an or even in an organization where you think the organization is not fit for it, right? It is important. And another thing that I really want to highlight it, if you have a very strong hierarchical organization, a hybrid PMO will probably struggle. For an hybrid PMO, you need to have a flexible governance approach. If you have a strong hierarchical approach, and this is just from experience, this may, I'm sure, organization will evolve, but what we have seen is that because for PMOs to be flexible and responsive to the change, it needs to have a leadership support. If you have a strong hierarchical function and the leadership is not supportive of your flexible approach or responsive to the change, then the PMO will struggle, right? And that's something that we have to live with. And that's something PMOs are evolving, PMO will keep on evolving. And I'm sure over a period of time, we will come to a situation where there will be a much better way of operating a hybrid PMO. The one more thing I want to highlight is, which is pretty much applies to our traditional approach or new approach, hybrid PMO or traditional PMO. Globally, there is no single clearly defined process available that can be adopted to standardize PMO implementation. There's just that. You read the research paper, you go to the organization, you just cannot take the approach that you have applied to organization A and use the same method and set up a PMO in organization B. It just doesn't work. Why it doesn't work? Organization culture is different. Organization environment is different. There's a very famous saying that organization culture eat strategy for breakfast. And the reason for that is the culture has strong influence on the people, on the ways of working, right? But what we know is that an empowered PMO can become a bridge between strategic objectives and organizational success by aligning strategy and investment. That's the key method I want to say. So whether you have a traditional delivery or an agile delivery, you can have an empowered hybrid PMO. If an organization is willing to support you, if you have a leadership support, a hybrid PMO can become a bridge between strategic alignment and organization by aligning strategy and with the investment and project execution. That's something that I want to share with you. That's basically what the discussion was today. I also want to just quickly highlight, and I'll open it up for question and answers. We run regularly PMP and CAPM exam certification. Our next session is starting from Monday. It's a virtual class. It's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Riyadh time. So it's about 4 weeks class. So we run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 hours for 4 weeks, 36 hours. Please register if you guys are interested. We are happy to give you a discount, 30% discount for chapter members. If you register today, the original price is $12.35. So please take advantage of this offer. Register today. I'm sure you will not be disappointed. You can look at the reviews on our website as well. We also have a hybrid PMO, establishing and operating hybrid PMO course that is coming up in October. You still have time. If you register by 8th of June, we will give you a $600 US discount. After that, the price would be $18.99. But please, by all means, take advantage of this. Would be good to see you guys. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Mohammed, if I'm happy to take questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jafar, for this interesting and informative presentation.
You're more
We are happy to
welcome.
take the attendees' questions now. So please kindly post your questions under the Q&A sections. Okay, I think we have one question here.
Yeah.
It says, business management demands multiple comprehensive. How PMO can help project managers or I think PMs, I think it refers to project
Yeah.
managers, to minimize the requirements.
Um, so business, just so that I understand, so business managers demand multiple comprehensive. I think probably its question is not complete. Hope you can help to minimize
Yes,
the
maybe if you
so,
can, Mr. Naveed, if you can add more details about it, we'll take it
okay.
later.
I don't know if we can
Um,
open the mic for them, so if you can just. And then we have, do you have evening time? So I'm guessing that question is for the PMP exam. We if we have enough interest from the chapter members, yes, we are more than happy to run evening session. We can also run a weekend session as well. So please let us know if you can uh, if you are interested, if there's enough, even if we have 10 15 from the chapter, you're more than happy to run Saudi Arabia evening time session.
so here's one more
Okay,
question. How can we
got it.
establish a professional PMO for the public sector?
Okay, that's a very good question, Muhammad Ali. Public sector is a challenging space, and the reason I say that is that especially in the public sector, there are defined processes, there are policies and procedures, right? What But for a PMO to survive in a public sector, you need to have executive support. Now, what I would suggest that if you are trying to set up a PMO, that you create a plan or strategy for the PMO. So the way I would start with, and I'm happy to help if you are trying to set something up, maybe we can have a session. I can help you, give you a bit of a guidance on. Come up with why do you want a PMO? What the PMO would provide to the organization, to that public sector area. Why should government actually spend money on it, right? Because when you're setting up PMO, you need resources, you need tools and techniques, and even if you're not using tools, you don't buy any tools, you need resources to run it, right? Um, what kind of, maybe you can sell them, that the concept of how you provide executive reporting. If you give them a plan how you would provide resource forecasting, maybe financial forecasting, benefit realization, right? Uh, um, and I would also emphasize on a concept of value development. So if you can help that sector prioritize project so that the sector can benefit from this. So that's one of the. So I would start with plan, provide the plan, what's your plan, how would you set up that PMO, and what the benefit that PMO will provide. I think that would be starting point. If you can tell that, it will be a lot easier. But that's one way of doing it. So,
Okay, here's one more
okay.
question, Mr. Jafar. Why PMO life cycle? I think he's referring to the first or the initial
Yeah, got it.
slides is less, as mentioned.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the reason for that, as I mentioned, the life is 2 to 4 years because over a period of time, PMO starts to lose management support. Traditionally, what has happened is because PMO organizations don't find PMOs adding value, they don't think the PMOs are giving them any benefit. And the reason for that, and usually in an organization, PMO staff is management overhead. So if you look at the project deliver something and they bring some revenue. So organization leadership do not realize that it's PMO that is providing the governance structure for the project to be successful. That's number one. The other thing is a lot of within the organization, the challenge for the PMO to be interactive and collaborative with the stakeholders, right? A lot of time, traditionally PMOs have been focused on governance. I want you to do this. I want you to do this reporting, do this reporting. But for what? Is that reporting useful? Is that reporting successful? Now, is that reporting really needed? So stakeholders to some extent would comply to it. But if you ask them, why should I be doing this report? A project manager, I'm more interested in delivering a project. So people tend to, or stakeholders tend to lose interest in the PMO because they think the PMO is is basically hindering the project delivery rather than supporting the project delivery. So if that's the key reason for that. So stakeholder perception is the PMOs are not adding value rather than creating governance, setting up governance processes, which are probably not required in the traditional, in the new era. That's one reason. Okay.
Okay, here's one more question, Mr. Jafar. Why we have to go for hybrid PMO instead of modern PMO, agile?
Uh, yeah, no, thank you very much. No, Adnan, you don't have to. If your organization doesn't need it, if your organization is totally based on agile environment, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a fintech. Let's say you deal with a lot of that's what you do. Your product delivery. You're a software development house. You don't need a hybrid PMO. You just need an agile PMO for sure, because that's the need of your organization. That's what I was trying to explain. Hybrid PMO is not for everyone, or even agile PMO is not for everyone. Hybrid PMO is for organizations that have traditional projects and agile, more software delivered agile kind of a project. But yeah, if your project, if your organization only deals with agile kind of stuff, like software delivery, yeah, hybrid is not for you. Yeah, that's right. There's no problem in it.
Thank you, Mr. Jafar. I
You.
think we can take a couple more questions.
Sure.
What is your advice for IT-controlled PMOs to be effective in business IT alignment?
I think in any PMO environment. So thank you very much for the question. Any PMO in alignment requires collaborative approach. Whether it's an IT, it's a construction, for a PMO, we need to listen to our stakeholders. If you're not going to listen to our stakeholders, we won't be able to we won't be able to support the projects. We won't be able to help our stakeholders. At the end of the day, PMO role is to support the organization achieve the objectives, right? And we do that by supporting the projects, right? So for a PMO to be effective, we need to be building relationship and trust with our stakeholders and communicating regularly. So some of the challenge the research tells us that PMO, because PMOs are so focused on focusing on process, enforcing processes, they have kind of a lost one-on-one direct interaction, communication with their stakeholders. So my advice would be interact with your stakeholders, reach out to them, spend time with them, and everybody knows how to open the door. And that's probably not a good analogy, but right. What if the door is stuck? And I'm saying, what if the door is stuck? If the door is stuck, would the people come to you to open the door? Okay, that's probably a bad analogy, but the point I'm trying to make is that if you are a PMO that your stakeholders come to you when they are stuck, or you are the PMO that stakeholders say, stay away from them, I don't want to talk to them. The effective PMO is where stakeholders think, yep, I need to go to PMO and they will give me an answer. They will find me an answer for this problem, right? That's what the effective PMO is. And you do it by building trust with your stakeholders, telling them you have the skills. So my advice would be more communicative with reach out to your stakeholders and show that you care.
Thank you, Mr. Jafar. So here is a question. How can we transform PMO into hybrid PMO?
Okay. Like I said, again, thank you very much for the question. The first thing is look at the organizational structure. Is your organization ready for this transformation? Do you really need this transformation? Like I said, hybrid PMO or even PMO is not for every organization. So the question is, if you already have a PMO, first of all, I would measure the effectiveness of your current PMO. What is not working? Are you not flexible enough? Are you not responsive to the change? If these are the problems that you're facing, then look at the root cause. Why are you not flexible? Is there industry? How can, what is the industry? What is the organizational hierarchy? To transform from any environment, it's a change, right? And we, as human, we don't enjoy change. We need to, as a PMO, we need to make sure before we start a change that we have enough support from the organization and from our stakeholders that they would appreciate the change and they believe the change will bring benefits. So my advice for you before you start any transformation, do a root cause analysis of what is causing the problem. If you have a problem, then if the problem is related to agility, responsiveness, strategic alignment, maybe that's what you want to look at, do it, and think about hybrid. And also go hybrid if you have traditional delivery and combination of agile delivery. Don't go hybrid just because we want to go hybrid. You may want to just build your existing PMO, and if you have just traditional delivery or agile delivery. So do your homework. Make sure you reach out. You understand what the challenges are before you start transformation journey. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Jafar. Are there templates that are recommended for resources management? And what other templates that can guide in setting the PMO governance?
I prefer not to say any templates. Yeah, every organization is different. Yes, you can have templates, but every template needs to be tailored. So if you have a specific need, I'm happy to give you some guidance, but there's no such set of specific. That's what I'm saying. The PMOs have no set defined standard across the globe, right? Everything is different. Everything is different. But if there's any requirement from your organization, maybe we can have a chat. I can guide you how you can do it or how you can approach it. By all means, connect with me. But I don't really have any set templates for any hybrid PMO. It just relies on what your organization requirement is.
Thank you, Mr. Jafar.
Sorry about that.
If we can take the last question here. Are there sources that show the best practices of applying PMO in the public sector, in KSA or other places?
Thank you very much, Chris. I am sure there must be. I'm happy to dig some things here. If you look at I'm not sure to be honest, but there must be some research somewhere. I'm happy to help. Probably I would start with PMI website. So if you go on PMI website, there's a lot of collateral. There's a lot of knowledge articles there. If you search on those knowledge articles, you might be able to find something. But I think one thing I would highly suggest that before best practices, whether you are looking at a public sector or a private sector, at the end of the day, it's the PMO. There are some best practices. So if I were you, I would just search for best practices approach, or you can connect with me. I'm happy to guide you, and we can take it from there. But yeah, probably there might be a case study where the PMOs are applied in the public sector. That they have to see. I'm sorry, I don't have the full answer for this. Okay. Sorry, Mohammed, I just noticed somebody, there's some chat.
Somebody typing in the chat. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. Do you recommend best professional certification for hybrid PMO? There's no certification for hybrid PMO or as such, but we are starting. So we have started our course. We were launching a course, establishing and setting up a hybrid PMO. And I think I mentioned to you, by all means, that will be a flagship, and we intend to over a period of time make that as a certification as well. But you will get a certificate as part of it, and you will get PDUs as well. You can claim against this project. Information is on the website. I'm happy to, when I send the deck out, please have a look at the link, Ritu, and if you get any question, reach out to me. This course will be very much on the case study and hands-on experience. So we tend to deliver courses which helps people gain experience and the feel for it rather than just textual. So by all means, happy to help. Yeah. Any other question, Mohammed?
I think we have covered almost all questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jafar, for taking these questions. And thank you all for raising these interesting questions. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact us at PMI KSA. we will be happy to help and support. So I think we could conclude this webinar, and at the end of it, I would like to thank everyone again for their time and for joining us. And would like also to thank Mr. Ali bin Dawood for supporting us throughout this webinar and setting up this webinar from IT perspective. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mohammed and Ali, and thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate that, and I'm honored to be part of this webinar. By all means, reach out to me if there's anything. Once again, all the very best, and look after yourself. Assalamu alaikum.
So.